we used to outsource all of this to contractors to do this, which cost us, I want to say, over $1 million like through this period. And we've been able to cut a lot of costs there and become a lot more efficient.
They say it's lonely at the top. They're right. But you don't have to scale your company alone. Welcome to the Scaling CEO. I'm Glenn Gow, the CEO Success Coach. On this podcast, I sit down with top performing CEOs to uncover the hidden patterns and frameworks behind their success so you can avoid common pitfalls and accelerate your company's growth. Now, on to the show. My guest today is Josh Daiter, the co-founder and CEO of Inventory. He's a founder with a rare and powerful trifecta of expertise, a background in computer engineering, a master's in entrepreneurship, and a master's in artificial intelligence, one of my favorite topics. Josh has led Inventory, a platform that helps wine collectors and restaurants manage their inventory from a simple project with his father to a highly successful company. He spent 5 years as the chief product officer before taking the CEO seat, giving him a deep product-first perspective on growth. Turns out that a lot of CEOs come from the product realm, so they'll be interested in hearing your story here, Josh. He's passionate about using technology to redefine experiences, and I'm excited to dig into how his unique blend of technical skill and entrepreneurial mindset is shaping the way he scales his company. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the intro there. That was great.
Now, you spent 5 years as a chief product officer before becoming CEO. What's the single biggest scaling insight you learned from the CEO chair that simply wasn't visible to you when you were focused on scaling the product?
Yeah, that's as a product person and as an engineer first, the first thing that you think of, or that I thought of when I started Inventory, was we need to build the best possible product, and the product will sell itself. And that was my attitude then. And to some degree, that's really helped us, get traction in the market. But stepping into the CEO role, I have to sort of look at the business more high level and think, well, you know what, we built this really great product, but distribution is the other half. Like, we really got to ramp up our marketing and really, really dial into the unit economics of understanding how people are converting, how are we acquiring new customers. Sure, we've got a great product and we know that, and we've known that for a few years now, but how are we going to get this in the hands of more wine collectors and really tap into the entire market? So that was the main thing that I kind of shifted my mindset in when I stepped into the CEO role. And it's the main thing that I'm going to continue to double down on.
That's great. Now, you started with individual wine collectors and are now scaling into the hospitality industry. What's your advice for a CEO who's struggling to scale and can't figure out if they have a scaling problem or a product market fit problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think product market fit is a lot of it's driven by numbers, but there's also a level of intuition here. You can obviously see it in numbers in terms of churn, and taking a look at what's my churn versus industry standard, what's my conversion rate versus industry standard. And that can give you a great benchmark for product market fit, as well as just the revenues that you're doing and your ARR and stuff like that. But there's another thing that I alluded to, which is the intuition. And what are people telling you about your product? Are you getting more positive feedback? Are you getting more criticism? What is that criticism? Is it really niche criticism, or is it broad, like your product doesn't work, it sucks, this does it better? So
Right.
there's a lot of, you got to really wade through the feedback. And at first, the feedback is really overstimulating because you've never gotten it before, if it's your first business. And then you start to learn how to kind of wade through that feedback and understand what's useful and what's not useful, what's a positive signal and what's a negative signal. So
Tell us, that's
humbling.
great. And tell us a little bit about how you wade through that feedback. I'm really curious how you make decisions as to, is this important feedback and useful feedback or not?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question. I think a lot of our feedback, we've started to do it in the form of surveys. So ultimately, like a one-off person telling you, you need to implement this into your product, or you got to do this, definitely take it with a grain of salt. Like, I usually respond with, I hear you, we'll take a look. And then we'll corroborate that with the average results from a survey. So that might be a positive signal to put that thing into some kind of product feedback survey. See, how do other people feel about this? And surprise, surprise, no one else cares because maybe that person's a very niche type of power user. And ultimately, you have to decide, especially in the early days, is this one thing going to make or break my business? Like, are we going to be focusing on the wrong thing? Maybe this person will pay you regardless and they just want to complain. So, really understanding like what's that thing that's going to tip people over to be a paying customer or be a lost customer versus just, I'm just so passionate about your product, I'm giving you some criticism.
Yeah, I think the critical factor you mentioned is trying to understand, does this represent a market opportunity or am I just reacting to the needs of a particular small niche that I really don't want to serve? And that's a critical decision-making point because you're going to make a big investment in the product and in your go-to-market motion. And so assessing whether or not you really want to act on that feedback is a critical step.
Yeah, a lot of people can get caught up in a lot of noise. And I think
Yes.
it's knowing that signal to noise ratio and really dialing that in with yourself and your company. And when you figure that out, then that's all that matters is the signal.
Now, your journey started with inventory uh, being a project with your father. What's the most important lesson about entrepreneurship he taught you in those early days that you still use while scaling the company today?
Oh, he taught me a big lesson, and it's a common one, and it's resilience. Don't let one piece of negative feedback or one bad month or a rejection from an investor get you down. Like the companies that are the most successful, believe it or not, are the ones that are in market the longest and that can just bear through the bad times and learn from them. And he's been through, you know, some pretty bad times in his previous companies and has gotten through all of them. And from that, he's kind of had this very calm nature about him where through crisis, he can just sit back and say, yeah, we'll figure it out. It's, at the end of the day, he always tells me, and I don't know how other people take this, but it's just money. It's just business. Like at least we have our lives, at least we have our family. And you have to put that into perspective.
That's great. And that's a good segue to my next question. You say you're passionate about building tech to redefine how we connect with, manage, and share the experiences we love. That's a great mission. And as you scale and the pressure for revenue mounts, how do you keep that why from getting lost in the quarterly numbers?
Oh, it happens all the time. Like I'm the type of person that wakes up every morning and within the first 10 minutes is checking our revenue dashboards to see what new purchases came through.
Sure.
I'm like addicted to that. And in some regards it's not great because you got to be able to zoom out and really understand your business at a higher level. So in terms of connecting people, that's actually something that you know, doesn't drive revenue necessarily, but it's part of the core mission of the company. And I really believe if you have a great vision, like if our vision is to connect people around wine and help them collect better, and we build features that serve that purpose, there's a lagging effect that happens when you build those features that create a positive result for you at some point. Hard to quantify, and not everything is quantifiable, even though my brain would like it to be that way. But you just have to listen to your gut and intuition, what people tell you.
Well, here's something special about what you've done with this mission, which is there are five key motivators for employees, and one of them is purpose. And if somebody wakes up in the morning saying, I'm doing something that isn't just trying to hit a revenue number or try to build a better product, but trying to redefine how we connect with the experiences we love, that's motivating to people. And that's what's beautiful about a great mission statement. It creates purpose for people and gives them the desire to do something bigger than what we're just focused on here and making our quarterly numbers. So congratulations for getting there.
Thanks. There's actually something that we do at Inventory that I'm sure other companies do this, but we love to be extremely transparent with our employees. So, for example, we'll we'll reinforce their mission by my wife does our customer support, and she'll often put in our general channel in Slack like great feedback from customers every day. Because they email us every day, and it'll be like, "I love this app so much. Like, this just changed my life." Like people will literally say that.
Oh, wow.
It makes our employees feel so good about what they're doing, and then that's the non-quantifiable side. And then on a monthly basis, I'll actually go and share the profit loss with them because I feel like they need to. It's such a small company; they need to understand how are their efforts actually translating into a better future for the company?
That's great. Now, you pivoted from a BDC model with collectors to a B2B model with restaurants. And I want to know, how did you grow through that? What's the most unexpected landmine you may have hit during that transition? How did you, as a CEO, have to adapt to navigate this kind of pivot?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different type of customer. Their buying behaviors are different. Their product needs are different. Even the margins and which they're willing to spend is completely different. So that's something that I really had to learn by talking to more customers, and even the ones that we've been able to sell on inventory for their restaurant. We've really dug into, why, it sounds like something you wouldn't want to do. Like someone buys something from you and then you say, "Hey, why did you buy this?" But you really got to understand, like, what was the motivating factor for someone to make that purchase. And that is, it's very similar to B2C, but you get a lot more up close and personal with a business because there's less of them, and your market's just a bit smaller, but it's deeper. Um, so that's the main difference.
Asking the question of why did you buy this is can be one of the most insightful questions to ask. And you're right, people don't usually ask that. A while back, we did a study back before I was a CEO coach. I was running a company, and we did a study on behalf of a large technology company to ask their customers, why were you buying this software? And when we brought back the results, they were very disappointed because they thought the answer was going to be, well, you have this feature and this function, and it really does cool things. The answer came back was, I can buy your software on a credit card. I don't need to get a PO. That's why I'm buying your software. Now, it turns out that happens to be really important, but it wasn't what the engineering team was hoping to hear.
It's almost like you can accidentally become successful, like by focusing on, it's just funny the way that things like that. And for us, like a similar thing kind of happened. Like we didn't realize the use case that these particular restaurants were using inventory for, because there's so many competitors and they can go with something that does more, right?
Sure.
We had a very specific use case that they used inventory for that we weren't prepared to hear. And it was just interesting to realize that, there is a segment of restaurants that actually have a lot of staff that want to, open the phone and find the bottle without having to ask like the head som there. So that was kind of surprising to us. We thought they would just use it for monthly inventory management.
Very interesting. So I want to talk about this last topic here, and I have two questions around AI. So good. We're lucky here. We have a master's in AI. I want to talk about how you're using it in the platform itself and where you see that going. And I also want to hear from you how you're using it inside the company, the operations of your company, and what tools and how what's your philosophy of using AI operationally.
Yeah, I'll start with the product side because I think that's the, like, let's just say the sexiest part. We built a tool that collectors can actually use to help them select bottles and curate their selections through inventory. So we branded this tool under the name Vincent. He's like your AI sommelier that helps you pick these bottles out, and you can chat with him by voice, or you can type to him and you can say, "Hey, Vincent, I'm having 10 friends over, big party. I want something between $200 and $500. Make sure I have enough bottles so that I can serve 10 people. We're having a barbecue, and Vincent will actually pick 3 wines out of your collection based on that criteria that might go great with that event." So that's one way. You can also ask, where are these bottles? How many of these bottles do I have? So he's a great assistant for you for those who don't have immediate access to a sommelier. Obviously, nothing beats a human being. That's my take on that. But it's great tool to help people who want to kickstart their creativity when selecting wines. So that's the first way.
Yeah, a quick question about that. So
Yeah.
how do you brand that?
Like, how do we name it Vincent?
Well, is it Vincent the AI sommelier or
He's just Vincent. Like in our product, it just says talk to Vincent. And then
okay?
Vincent has a
Fantastic.
voice when he responds. And I forget how we came up with the name. I think we just, like, in our Slack channel, just threw out a bunch of names and someone said, "Oh, Vincent sounds proper." And we were like, okay. And like Vin, like wine,
Of course, of course.
made sense.
So quick question there. I can imagine there are restaurants who either don't have a sommelier or they may not have a sophisticated sommelier. And then we have maybe other restaurants that do have someone whose actual full-time job is being that sommelier. Um, Over here on the area of the sophisticated buyer, do they feel threatened by Vincent, or do you find them adapting to using Vincent?
No, that we haven't heard that they feel threatened by Vincent because I mean, any of these Psalms know that you need a mouth to taste wine and you need to be able you need a nose to smell wine. And at the end of the day, Vincent can't do any of those things. He can just interpret these things through data.
Right.
So, I mean, Psalms definitely should not be intimidated by Vincent taking their jobs, and that's absolutely not our intention either. We just want it to be a nice tool to help people. But we have a few Psalm friends that actually use it themselves as like a guiding kind of, hey, here's maybe 50 wines. Can you just like pare this down to maybe four? And then they'll do their own sort of analysis on that. So it's more of a tool than a replacement.
Right. I think that's the right positioning. That's great. Now let's shift to on the last. This will be our last topic. Talk about AI inside the company operationally.
Yeah, this is the most exciting, I think, because for a small team like us, we're able to use AI as tailwind for our company. Like this is, in bigger companies that are that are slower to adapt AI or are sort of like making hard pivots to try and implement AI. It's kind of like shoving it down the company's throat. But for us, like we've adopted it naturally with our small and nimble team. So one way we use it is we actually have a database of 2 million wines, and we get like 1,500 new wines a week that people add to our database for us. Like they say we don't have this wine, and we legitimately don't have it. Sometimes we do have it, and in that case, we use AI to find duplicates. So it will run a duplicate detection match on our whole database and make sure that they're not submitting a duplicate. If we don't have it, we'll actually go and have AI do research for us to say, hey, what is the region of this wine? What is the price, the critic scores, the drink window, all of that, and it will do that for us. And then we have a SOM in house that just check, 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 validates it. So there's a human in the loop. Um, but it's really, really helped us become more efficient. Like we used to outsource all of this to like
Oh,
contractors to do this, which cost
right.
us, I want to say, over $1 million like through this period. And we've been able to cut a lot of costs there and become a lot more efficient.
That's amazing. Wow. Wow. Good for you. Good for you. Well, we're out of time, Josh. Thank you so much for being a guest. Let the audience know how they can reach you should they want to reach out.
Yeah, happy to connect on LinkedIn, Josh Daiter or Joshua Daiter. I forget exactly how I put it in, but happy if you type inventory, I'll be there. You can reach us at inventory.com or on Instagram at inventory. And yeah, if you have a wine collection, we'd be happy to become the provider for you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
That's a wrap for today's episode of The Scaling CEO. If you found this valuable, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with a fellow CEO who could benefit. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please give us a quick rating as it really helps more people find the show. I'm Glenn Gow, the CEO Success Coach. See you next time for more proven strategies to grow your business and leadership.